Hi everyone, it's Ed from Runnable, and this is my 100 mile review of the ASICS Megablast. So in this review, I'll be letting you know how it felt to run in this shoe over those 100 miles. And more importantly, I'll be letting you know about key things that you want to know about the shoe, how well it's responding to the wear and tear of running all those miles. And at the end of this review, you'll have some idea whether this at £210 is a worthwhile purchase given what I'm saying about that wear and tear. So watch the full review and watch the run footage to get my opinion on this shoe and how it's performed over those 100 miles. Hi everyone, it's Ed from Runnable. It's Wednesday afternoon. Actually on my way home because I've got to get to some kind of school trip meeting at my daughter's school. She's off to Berlin, which is a great city, as I know from doing the Berlin Marathon. But you don't want to hear about school trips and stuff like that. What you want to hear about is running shoes, I assume. So I have on my feet a shoe that I've been using extensively in the last month or so. I think month, and they are the ASICS Megablast, one of my favorite daily max cushion daily trainers at the moment, and I've actually managed to reach 100 miles in them now. So this is going to form part of my 100 mile review, so that you know, sorry, I'm just getting out of the way, so that you know more about the shoe, how they're doing in terms of durability, the upper, how that's holding up, and generally the foam, if it's broken in or not. I'll give you all that kind of detail. From then we can start formulating a picture of whether this shoe is going to be a really durable, amazing shoe and worth the £210, that price, which is a ridiculous price, but maybe, just maybe, they might be worth it if I feel like they're going to last a long time. So stand by for the full 100 mile review of the ASICS Megablast. Well, I'll break down all of that stuff into a kind of concise review for you, and watch some of the run footage. I'm going to run from my work, which is Kings Road, all the way to Green Park, and I'm going to catch the tube from there because I'm in a rush and I'm not going to run home today, well at least all the way. I'll run to Green Park, which is about, I don't know, 4k. Anyway, I'll see you soon. Love you all. Bye bye. Okay, so I'm running along the Kings Road. That's why it's quite busy, as you can see. I've got the ASICS Megablast on my feet. I should get across the road while I can. Thank you. And yeah, I've run about 100 miles in them now. So a good point to kind of look back and reflect on this shoe over the 100 miles, where I think it's going to be a good buy for you all at the high price point of £210, and whether I can recommend this shoe as a kind of one for you all to purchase. So let's break it down, folks. So in terms of the shoe itself, as I've mentioned a few times now, it's got a very lightweight upper, low volume upper. It's got a decent grip, and the outsole and the aliphatic TPU foam is nice and bouncy, but on the firmer side. So over that 100 miles, the foam is definitely broken in a little bit. So it's definitely not as firm as it was when I started. Bear in mind, I'm not a big guy, 5'9", 64 kg. So, you know, it takes a while for me to break things in a bit. And this is taking me about, you know, the 50, 60 miles, I would say, to break in. And a bit like, funnily enough, a bit like the Superblast took me. Really did not like the Super Blast when I first put them on. I found them to be really hard, firm and hollow, and after about 50 miles in them, I went from hating them to thinking it's my favourite shoe, and I ran a 20-mile race in them. I liked them that much, and this has been similar, but right from the off I kind of knew I was going to like this shoe, and that wasn't the case with the Super Blast. Thank you. It's definitely not the case. I wasn't sure about that shoe at all. I was kind of agreeing at the time with Joanna that it wasn't a good shoe, and then I completely changed after 50 miles and thought, right, it's one of my favourite shoes. So Megablast, as I said, right from the off, got good vibes. Okay, it's a little bit firmer than I was used to, but I got such a nice bounce, energy return from the shoe that that didn't really matter. So what I would say about the rest of the shoes, so the outsole, we'll show you it in the full review, but the outsole is wearing really well, and there's hardly any sign of degradation yet. The tread's still intact. Where I normally land on the outside of the forefoot, it's very little breakdown of the rubber there on the outsole, which is quite impressive really. I think the rubber's actually reasonably solid on the outsole, so that's a good sign for durability point of view. Where the foam is exposed, there's no damage to the foam, and I have run with this shoe on rocky pathways and pavements, so it's also a good sign. The upper, which I find when I first started using it, very low volume, seems to be expanding a little bit, and now my feet feel absolutely fine in this upper. Just bear in mind when you first put them on, it can feel quite low volume, but this material, this lightweight mesh upper, does kind of is a little bit malleable and will expand to your foot shape over time, so that's also a plus. And then the midsole, so like I said, that's gone from feeling a little bit on the firm side to just about perfect at this 100 miles. It feels better than it did when I first put it on. It feels better than it did after 50 miles at 100 miles, so that's a really good sign as well, that it's going to have those good durable properties that's going to keep you bouncing along for many a mile. So you've got a really absolutely fantastic running shoe that's just going to give you back more and more the more you're using them. So for me, that's a really good attribute of a daily trainer, you know, one that feels just as good, if not better, after 100 miles than it did when you first put them on your foot. You can't say that about all the daily trainers out there. Maybe the Outsole you could say that about as well, although I am getting the upper in that shoe is getting really worn out. Thank you. Yeah, it's getting really worn out. Where my big toe is, it's worn away, and also the back of the heel is wearing away. Getting none of that in this shoe, and I did get that in the Super Blast actually, so maybe the upper on this one is slightly better. So to summarise, stop you listening to my dulcet tones. To summarise, what you have here is a shoe that on the midsole side actually feels better at 100 miles than it did when I got them out of the box, which is good. The outsole is showing very, very little sign of wear, if any, and the upper is holding up nice and well, but also has expanded a bit to my foot shape, so I'm getting less toe rub now than I did before, which is also a huge plus side, because that was one of the things I was most worried about in this shoe. I was getting some real bad toe rub. That's pretty much gone now. So all in all, I'm absolutely loving this shoe now. But one thing I would say is something to bear in mind. If you're used to a shoe that rocks you forward, like the Outsole, this feels far flatter, and it's just something I've had to get used to. So it's a bit sloppy in that respect. For you lighter runners like me, you may, until you've broken it in, you may struggle to get the best out of this foam initially, but just bear with it, because it will come the more you use it. And that's the beauty of this shoe, and probably where I'll leave it, is the more you leave it, what am I about? The more you use it, the better it gets. And for me, that's the most remarkable thing about it. It's got huge super blast vibes in that respect for me. And ASICS have once again absolutely smashed it out of the park with this shoe. It's just a shame they make us fork out all this cash to buy it in the first place. Lots of people can't afford £210. It's a ridiculous price. Come on, ASICS, you want more people to wear your shoes and give you good reviews like this one, just reduce it, make it 170, something like that. It doesn't feel quite as hard to swallow. By the way, just before I go, what a great location this is in London, just before you get to Green Park and Green Park itself. It's just a really nice part of London to visit. Get yourself to Green Park if you're a tourist. Enjoy what the facilities that park has to offer. The only thing I would say is just try to avoid the bikes. The amount of times these bikes have nearly knocked me flying is ridiculous, really. I thought cars were my living nightmare given what happened to me, but now bikes are becoming even more tricky. It's great to see everyone on their bikes, to be fair, being a bit facetious. You know, London is changing beyond belief in that respect, and all for the better. And I'm going to try and get across this road as quick as I can and get myself home for this school trip meeting. Wish me luck, folks. I'll see you soon. Green Park, and oh, actually, let's just go and see the memorial, and then I'll say goodbye. One of my favourite memorials. Loads of poppies around it this time of year. Okay, there you go. Take a good look for, folks. RAF Memorial for those that died in the Second World War. And with that, I'll see you soon. Bye bye. Okay, so before we get into the wear and tear of this shoe, let's just go through some key stats around the shoe for those that know nothing about it. So this shoe is a massive shoe. Look at the size of it. Okay, in terms of the fit, I went 9.5. I'm glad I did that because it's quite low volume. Although I must say that over the time I've been running 100 miles in the shoe, and I got to that 100 miles probably quicker than I have in any other shoe that I've owned because of how much I like running in this shoe. This upper, this low volume upper, has stretched a little bit and I have less problems with my toes getting rubbed against the sides, so that's a good thing. So it shows that this upper is quite malleable and over time it will stretch to match your foot shape a little bit more. So in terms of weight, for those that don't know, it's quite a light shoe given how big it is. It's 246 grams. So for instance, that would make it a good 40 grams lighter than something like the Neo Vista 2. It's not quite as light as the Adidas Evo Outsole, but you've got a lot more stack here, a lot bigger shoe in general. So it's a very competitive weight for those that care about weight. In terms of stack height, you've got a 45mm stack height in the heel. You've got 37mm in the forefoot with an 8mm drop. The foam itself is quite firm, so it does feel like a kind of 8mm drop. There's not a lot of sinkage into this foam. You get a nice little bounce, and when we talk a little bit about the midsole in a minute, you'll understand what the magic is in this shoe. The key things to remember about the shoe is that it can feel a bit tight at first, but that gets better the more you use it. You've got a really nice lightweight upper, you've got the ridge laces, you've got like a semi-gusseted tongue, it's stitched at the side here, and then you've got a reasonable amount of heel collar, you know, a padding around the heel collar, and also the counter, and you've got a very rigid heel counter, so bear that in mind. I did get a little bit of heel rub early on with this shoe, but that's improved as well over time. And you've got some structure to the upper, so the upper in general is really nice upper, really nice and lightweight, and as long as you can get over the initial foot rub that you might get if you've got high volume feet, you should be fine. The outsole is quite good in the sense it's got a nice rubber coverage in the forefoot and deep tracks, as you can see. It's got quite a lot of exposed foam here, but it covers all the key areas. And one thing I've seen over the 100 miles is it's wearing really well. I land about here and you can barely see any degradation in this rubber here. It's actually quite thick and strong rubber. You can tell by it if you just do that, you know, it hurts my finger doing that. So it's not the softest rubber, it's soft but not at the softest, and it looks to me like it's going to be very hard wearing, which is good for durability reasons. Now the exposed foam, it's obviously got discoloured, but I'm not seeing much sign of wear there either, and I've been on some paths with rocks and gravel and etc, and it seems like this foam is pretty durable to me. So the outsole is wearing really well, and that's a good sign for those 100 miles. Midsole, this is even a better sign. This midsole, when I initially went out in this shoe, was a little bit firm for my liking. It was kind of comparable to the Evo Outsole, if not, it felt maybe even a touch firmer, maybe not quite as dense, but a little bit kind of more hollowy and more kind of, when you land, a bit more slappy, so your foot take a bit of a pounding. What's happened over those 100 miles is I've broken it in. Now, something you should know, I'm 5'9", 63, 64 kg. I'm not the biggest guy in the world. It's taken me a while to break this in. I think around about 60 miles, I started to see an improvement in this midsole for me. It started to break in. It started to get a bit more responsive. I got a bit more bounce, a bit more energy return. It felt less slappy as my foot was making no indent into the midsole whatsoever. Really did feel slappy at the start, and once it broke in a bit, I got a tiny bit of sinkage and a nice decompression, which was a really nice feeling. Once that started to happen, I really got this shoe. And it reminds me a lot of the Super Blast, actually. When I first started using that shoe, I thought, oh, what a mistake. What have I bought here? It was so hollowy and firm. And my feet and legs, they really didn't like the feeling in that shoe. I remember Joanna saying something similar. I actually put an extra insole in that shoe just to cope with the firmness. And then once it had broken in, I could take the insole out and it was fantastic. And it's a similar thing with this. Although right from the start, I kind of knew that this foam was going to be something special. I just felt like I did need to break it in. And once it broke in, it feels fantastic now. So this shoe is actually better now at 100 miles, in my opinion, than it was straight out of the box. It's better than it was after 10 miles for me, 20 miles. It's just getting better and better. And that, folks, is a sign of good shoe. A bit like with Outsole, this shoe and that shoe are kind of on the same plane in terms of, in that respect, how they seem to get better and better. And it's largely to do with the properties of the foam. This FF Turbo Squared, this aliphatic TPU, which looks like it's going to be really hard wearing, looks like it's got those really good properties that the more you use it, the better it gets in terms of energy return and bounce. One thing to bear in mind, if you love the Outsole, this is a very different feeling shoe when you land. It feels a lot flatter, it's a lot slappier, although less so since I've broken it in. And it's less curved. So the rocker that you get with the Outsole, as soon as you land, it feels like you're on a curve and you roll through. This to me feels a lot flatter. And when I land, I land flatly on this shoe and bounce forward. And it suits people actually that land with a lot of force. I think this, for heavier runners, they're going to absolutely love this, because the more force you put through this midsole, the more it's going to compress, the more it's going to decompress quickly because of how good the properties in this foam are, and the more bounce you're going to get. And it's like a domino effect. The more you put into this shoe, the more it's going to really take off for you. And so I think this is an amazing midsole. Like I said, this FF Turbo Squared, I think, is going to be hard wearing. And as you use it more and more, and as it breaks in, you're going to get more and more energy return. And that's a really good sign after 100 miles. So let's summarize for you all. In terms of durability, I'm not having any issues with the outsole here. I think it's going to be very durable. The exposed foam is fine. The upper, I'm getting no tears, no wear. It's just a bit of discoloration because it's a white upper. It's actually improved for me because it's adjusting to my foot shape and giving me a little bit of extra room. There's less rubbing now in the toe box area, which is a blessing for me because I was a bit worried at first. And all get great lockdown in the shoe. And in terms of the midsole, I'm getting more out of it now at 100 miles than I did after straight out of the box, or after about 10 miles or 20 miles. It's much better now. I'm looking forward to the next 100 miles in this shoe, and I'm willing to guess that I'll get there in record time, more quickly than I have in any other shoe, because this is one of the first shoes I look to put on my feet along with the Outsole. And folks, that is really the only competitor for me at the moment. The Outsole and this shoe, I think, are heads and shoulders above pretty much everything else. Neo Vista 2 I like, but that's more of for me, a recovery run, slower paces, an easy run shoe. This one's more of an all-rounder, like the Outsole. It's just a lot bigger. It feels a lot bulkier. There's a lot of cushion here for you doing those long 20-mile runs. And I think for those kind of runs, there is no better shoe than this shoe out there on the marketplace. So the final thing I'll say is £210, still too much, ASICS, right? even despite everything I'm saying, still too much. Please just bring it down to below the 200 mark. 170 would be nice, but if you're not going to do that, make it 190 or something like that. I think it's going to be very durable, so I think you're going to get your money's worth in this shoe. But it's just going to alienate a lot of people who can't afford £210. And that's a shame, because everyone, I think, would be great if everyone could experience how good this shoe is, how great this FF Turbo squared foam is, how nice this upper is, and ultimately what a fantastic shoe the ASICS Megablast is. So that's my final thoughts on this shoe. Put in the comments what you think about it, if this has whet your appetite to actually buy it. I know it's a lot of money, folks. You know, if you can get like 15% off at sports shoes or whatever, that might help. But I do feel like, you know, even though you're going to have to stomach that, I think it's a shoe that will give you back a lot for your money. And that's pretty much all I want to say today. Love you all. Thank you for supporting my channel. Continue to support my channel. Those of you who have subscribed, great. Thank you for that. Those that haven't subscribed, you don't have to, of course, but it'd be nice just to show support for this channel if you did. And either way, I'm going to love you regardless. So I'll see you later. Bye-bye.